How the fuck you doing tonight, man? It's great to see you guys. Hope you guys have been well, man, as we get together again on the greatest show on earth, man, the PP Show. Great to see you guys here tonight. We got a whole lot to unpack. Again, a lot of exciting things in the works at the moment. We're going to read a couple pieces of DD here tonight, and hopefully it won't be too long of an episode here this evening, man. So great to see you guys. Hope you guys are well, man, as we get into the show. So let's get in the legality. We won't waste any more time here, and it's good to see everybody here tonight, man. So keep in mind, man, I am not a financial expert, nor am I a financial advisor, all right? So please seek the avenues to do so. You're not going to find it here. A lot of this is opinion. A lot of this is speculation. A whole bunch of it is entertainment, if you haven't guessed it already. We like getting together. We like talking about the stock, and that's really all there is to it, man. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind, any guests who come to the show, man, nobody here is a professional. So if you hear any opinions, speculation, TA, things like that, keep in mind, man, nobody here is a professional. We like getting together. We like talking about the stock, and that's really all there is to it, man. So let's dive into it, man. There's a whole lot to unpack here from Vlad from Robinhood. We're going to dive a little bit into that tonight. Goat Beards wrote an excellent piece of DD that we're going to dive into as well. Excuse me. And we got a couple fan favorites here tonight on the show. So good to see everyone here this evening, man. PP Coin, what's going on with PP? PP Plus and PP is dominating the crypto space right now, man. I got to say. Let's dive into it, man. A whole lot to unpack here. So with that being said, chat, please give a warm welcome to none other than Travis the Stripper. What's going on, Travis? Great to see you on the PP Show. How we doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing great. What's up, PP? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. A whole lot to unpack here. It's been a while since we've seen you here at the show, man. Anything you'd like to add for the good people at home that haven't seen you here, your beautiful face here at the PP Show? What do you have for the good people at home before we bring in Wally Buck here?
Yeah, it's a face for radio, really. No, a lot going on. A lot of tinfoil I see out there. A lot of things I've been keeping up on, but kind of lurking more than anything. Just been busy with life, so I haven't been really posting a whole lot. But yeah, a lot of interesting developments going on, especially with Beyond, which is now Bed Bath & Beyond, and their warrants and the everything getting halted for that turning over into the NASDAQ. It's been interesting to watch everything kind of like, come to fruition from that aspect. Don't know if it has anything to do with us. I know there's a lot of tin out there. There's a lot of speculation, but it's definitely fun and interesting to kind of watch it all unfold.
Excellent. Yeah, they're neighborhood intelligence now is what they are. And I think the most interesting thing is, what we saw with Ryan Cohen kind of following Bill Pulte and also the White House, right? And that was when he was still national intelligence, right? One day prior. And then the next day, Jay Clayton took over. And sure enough, we saw Bed Bath & Beyond announce that they are now this neighborhood intelligence, right? So I do think that there's some connections here. You're going to like what we see, what I read off to you here tonight. But I think there's some connections, man, when it comes to the new Bed Bath and also ourselves. So, but great to see you here this evening, Travis. We're going to bring in Wally Buck as well next. And then we have Anon with us as well. We are going to cover a little bit what's going on with Robinhood just right at the start. We're going to let Anon go and explain some stuff here as well. Real quick, we got Pawanjeet out there with the 5 PP Show gift memberships. Appreciate your support. If you're one of the lucky people out there that got a membership, be sure to give a thanks in the chat, fellas. Appreciate the love. We got Shrimp Dog out there as well with the $9.99. Appreciate the love, my man. I think there's something attached to it here. Sheba Dog shaking his hips saying, thank you. Appreciate the love, my man. We got Hank E out there with the 5 gifted PP Show memberships. Again, if you're one of those lucky people out there that got a membership, be sure to give a thanks in the chat. All right, let's dive into it here tonight. I'm not sure what's going on with Travis's thing, but maybe he'll be back. Chat, give a warm welcome to none other than Wally Buck. What's going on, Wally? Great to see you.
PP, Travis, hello. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, my man.
Happy to be here. Exciting times, man. Exciting times. We're more than halfway through August. September's right around the corner.
Yeah, I was plugging in a bunch of shit into AI today, man. I had a bunch of time on my hands and was plugging in a shitload of stuff to AI. And this AI is very confident that this has to happen by next month. Now, I asked it, is this like a hard date that this would have to happen by September? It says that we should see something transpire next month, but it could still go a little bit past September. But it was kind of plugging in a lot of this stuff when it has to do with like the 2-year window that we've been waiting on, the 3-year window as well. Basically, from what it was telling me is that it found it very interesting that the 2-year window for these nulls happened to end in, September 29th, 2025. And 8 days later, we saw GameStop and also the new Bed Bath & Beyond issued these warrants, right? Directly after that. So I do find the entire thing, I do think it's all correlated. I think it's all connected. New Bed Bath & Beyond, GameStop. And we are most certainly going to see a white knight kind of come out of the woodwork here, in my opinion. And also, I even asked it about, because a lot of people have gone back and forth as well in terms of, a lot of these shills out there, they say, well, there's a consummated plan. They can't, they can't change the plan, yada, yada. And while that is true, okay, you could, in fact, have a scenario where they can still distribute shares, right? They don't need to modify this plan. I can't remember the exact language that it used, but it basically said that the plan man can come forward if there is, in fact, a white knight who comes in here. They can kind of still distribute shares via like a payout, things like that. So just because you can't modify the plan does not mean that it's said and done just like that. So yeah,
and also I don't think that just because the shares were canceled and were not entitled, and canceled and deemed worthless, does not mean that does not mean that those shares can't function as some sort of a bookmark or a placeholder for us to be reissued something entirely different later from a successor entity. Like the language would not preclude that. And I don't think it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah, it said something along the lines of how the bankruptcy would work, and I told it to analyze multiple bankruptcies, all the rulings, everything that's kind of happened up to this point, where I was feeding it pretty much everything that I could. And it basically came to this conclusion that that's how it would go down, right? That there's going to be something submitted, could be like an S4 registration, whatever it may be. And, I even asked it direct things about AST, computer share, stuff like that. And it said that, there'd be contact sent to computer share for people who are DRS, right? So there's no issues there. And then anybody who is on brokerages, things like that, the DTCC would get notified, and then your shares would literally just pop up in your brokerage account. So I have zero issues in terms of holding in DRS or on brokerage. I had most of my shares on brokerage, but I did DRS some. But I know that's been a really big thing for a lot of people out there, really worried about DRSing, things like that. This told me how the bankruptcy works. The DTCC, there's a reason why everybody was in the Seed & Co. And counted with their shares, right? There's a reason why we saw this. So long as you bought, right, up until the point of cancellation of September 29th, 2023, those shares most likely will be included. I can't say what could happen to the shares that possibly people bought on Moomoo, right? Because I think there was like one other exchange out there, which was Moomoo, that was kind of selling shares to people. And I think up until the point of like the 18th.
For Moomoo to come back, dude.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't know how they're gonna play it out, because they have everyone on record in the bankruptcy via Seed & Co. I don't know if those were recorded after. So again, I have no idea. It's up in the air. That's a total gamble, in my opinion. But there could be some, you could still get shares back on Moomoo as well. So just keep that.
How fun will that be? I probably have 1/3 to 1/2 of my position on Moomoo, because at that point I started buying it $20 or $15. It was down to like 10, 15, 20 cents. I was just, $100 here, $1,000 there. Moomoo comes back. That's going to be a fun app to open on my phone. That's just been like $78 for years or whatever.
Yeah, right on.
That can be wild.
Well, let's dive into it. We got Anand with us here tonight. He wants to give his opinions on this recent stuff having to do with Vlad, CEO of Robinhood. Obviously, we know there's been some interesting stuff. Vlad's talking about innings. He's talking about, certain things that they don't want this to happen with GameStop again. Some people believe that maybe Vlad has flipped. I'm a 50-50. I don't really know, man. The fact that they partner with Citadel, it doesn't sit right with me, right? But of course, I'm open to the ideas. I'm open to the discussion of what people want to share here, obviously, as well pertaining to that. So let's go ahead and bring in Anand here this evening. Chat, please give a warm. We'll do a poll in the chat if we'll see what people think out there about CEO Vlad from Robinhood. Chat, give a warm welcome to none other than Anand. All right, Anand, what's going on, my man? Welcome to the ThePPShow.
What's up, PP? What's up, guys? Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, cool. So there was last June, something interesting happened with Robinhood and myself and my wife, and there's a few members of the community that kind of know the full story of how it unfolded, and I think some of the members felt like it might be worth sharing, given given Vlad's temperature change. It seems like so. I'll do a quick recap from the beginning. So I've ever since I got into public securities, I've always had a Robinhood account. So maybe since like 2019ish. And obviously, February 2021, I bought my very first GME shares in my Robinhood account. And I've always kept a decent GME portfolio with Robinhood just for, I know before everybody murders me, just for the idea of learning how to trade options. I mean, they have the best UI. So I've always kept Robinhood just to kind of learn how to sell covered calls and, other options. So I've always kept my Robinhood account active, and I'm a true degenerate. I only have GME in my Robinhood account now. Um, yeah, and liquidated all my other positions. So it's there. It was sitting there. I was learning how to sell calls last May, or I want to say April or May. I get an email saying I'm invited to a Robinhood event in Cannes. It's a coastal town in France. It's like where the Cannes Film Festival is. And at first, I'm thinking this is bullshit. It's spam. Somebody wants my credit card number, and they're gonna go buy a Lambo with it. So I kind of go do my due diligence, and everything checks out that this is from an official Robinhood email address. And so I say, yeah, I'm in. Like I'll fuck it. I'll go to France and see what this event's about. I had seen a YouTube video of their first event, and it was like a badass keynote that Vlad gave. So I was all in on at least going to check it out. So the invite said one person only, absolutely no plus ones. And so my wife's like, you're not going to France alone, because these are the same fucking people that turn off the buy button. So we don't know what they could do to you and all your GME shares. So I shot my shot, and I emailed that email address, and I said, hey, can I bring a plus one? And they said, okay, we'll have her fill out this application. And I sent my wife's application with her name, email, and whatever information. And so now they know that we're a husband and wife with Robinhood accounts, and we have nothing but GME shares in our Robinhood accounts. And so they allow both of us to come to this event. And so we get to the event, and there's very, very specific instructions on like where to go to register or to check in and things like that. So my wife and I started doing the math. We went back and watched the first keynote event, and the first thing that stands out is how limited people they actually invite to these things. So the first event, I think it was like the City of Gold or whatever it was called, it was like maybe maximum 200 people. So like I did the math, and if there's like 60 million Robinhood accounts and they invite like 200 people to one of their events, it was like a fraction of a percent likelihood that I get selected to come to this event, considering that I have nothing but GME shares
Why?
in
So
my
if
account.
you don't mind me asking,
considering-
so why
yeah.
were you invited to this event? Is it like
I have no
a
idea.
net worth type of thing? Is it completely randomized? I mean, what like how did you get invited to this?
Yeah, so how I got the email and the invite, I have absolutely no idea. But once I validated that it's a real invite from like actual Robinhood, I decided that I was going to go. So the net worth question, I'll address that
Okay, sure.
in just a moment. So the first thing that told me that something, kind of interesting is happening here is we go to the hotel where they say you need to be at a specific time to get your badge and your
Mhm.
table number. So I walk up and I give them my last name, and the lady goes, I actually don't have a table number for you. Sorry about that, but give me a moment and like we'll fix that. Not a big deal. And I said, sure, not a problem. And so eventually they give me a badge, and you won't believe it. Guess what table number they sat me at?
17.
17.
Wow,
You got it.
that's crazy.
To the point where they even made my wife and I sit separately, but they made sure to sit me at
Mhm.
table 17. So I think last year is kind of when I got merged a lot more into the Q side of things, and I'm definitely a believer. And so that was like my first open your eyes moment that holy shit, something bigger that I can't even describe here is taking place, and I'm just going with the flow wherever this takes me. And so we check in, we get our badges. There's a series of like unmarked black vans that are parked curbside to like take us to this very private estate chateau like up in the mountains. And I saw those vans and the first thought was like, holy shit, they're gonna kill us and like dump the fucking bodies. I know it. Because it's just like everybody's suited up. It's just these unmarked vans. Everybody's so serious. But again, we're going with the flow. We get in the car and we start immediately networking. Like I like to network. So I'm asking people like, who are you? Why are you here? Why did they choose me to be here? So on and so forth. So on the way up to the chateau, one of the guys I'm talking to manages a private office for a family. He's managing like $7 or $8 billion worth of assets for this family. So clearly, me and this guy don't belong. But here we are. Then sitting across from me in the van are two guys, and I asked them, "What do you do?" And they say we started the Robin Hood of like Spain, and so a lot of the like infrastructure that Robinhood uses, like we've replicated it in a lot of the European markets, and so that's why we're here. So the first thing that stood out is something about me doesn't quite belong in this room, but like I'll hold judgment until I go to the event and meet more people. So finally, we kind of get to the chateau. My favorite part was as soon as you get out of the van, they immediately gift you. They welcome you with champagne, so that
Mhm.
was a nice touch. And it's like 148 degrees there, so like we were melting, so that was awesome. We sit down for the series of panel discussions and for Vlad's keynote, and the first thing that stood out about the keynote was he had a lot of tickers like scrolling through on the background while he was speaking because the theme of the event was like the tokenization of everything, I think
Mhm.
was the theme of the event. And so he had all these tickers scrolling through, and I'm waiting anxiously for them to show GME, if for no other reason that I wanted to take a picture of like Vlad on stage with like the GME ticker behind him because of just the irony in that image. And they never showed the GME ticker, which that was like another interesting mental note that I made. Um, and then like the theme of his keynote was my wife's an artist, my kids they collect baseball basketball cards, so like we understand the world of like art and collectibles. And so the entire theme of Vlad's keynote was that the tokenization of everything is coming. So if you're like a private company and you want to sell shares of your private company on the blockchain, Robinhood's blockchain will enable you to do that. And you can fractionalize a Babe Ruth baseball card and sell shares of it on the Robinhood blockchain, and piece of art and same thing. So that was kind of the high level theme. So I would say that was like the gist of my experience, but I would say that to this day, I really don't have an explanation on like why I was invited to that. They clearly know based on my email address and SSN number that I have nothing but GME. Um, I had a theory that Vlad flipped I go deep down the Edwin Barnes rabbit hole, and part of that is like Vlad could be a white hat now. So one of my theories is that if Vlad is a white hat, then he's probably there could be a way for him to get in touch with a select few members of the community to start maybe repairing relationships or at least having a dialogue. I don't know. It's just one theory, but
if you don't mind, I'm going to read this here from Available Werewolf pertaining to Vlad. So basically, I had posed this question for everybody out there. I want to know what people thought. I said, did CEO of Robinhood flip? This is kind of crazy. What do we think? Now, this is a snippet that Available Werewolf shared just yesterday. It says, Robinhood Vlad Teniv says out loud what we've known for years. Nobody can stop GameStop's MOS on the blockchain. First, and this is quoted as, first, tokenization enables real-time settlement, makes markets more resilient. The GameStop fiasco must never happen again. I wrote about this in January, but to recap, the trading restrictions at the heart of the GameStop episode were driven primarily by legacy clearinghouse risk management rules applied to a 2-day settlement period. We helped push the industry from a 2-day settlement to a 1-day settlement. Even so, brokerages are still forced to put up significant amounts of cash to reduce the risk in the time between a stock trade and its settlement. On the blockchain, stock tokens can trade, settle, and move in real time. Real-time settlement means much less risk and pressure on the system, particularly in times of severe market stress. I mean, I find it very interesting, right? I mean, what's going on here? And again, for me, I can't get over the fact that, yes, they are partnered with Citadel, right? This is a direct hedge fund that preyed on GameStop's, downfall, for instance, right? This is not something that I would typically, ever support. So I do find it very hard to believe, some people have thrown out ideas that, yes, he's flipped or whatever it may be. I find the whole thing to be a little bizarre. I will say it is really weird that Trump did choose Robinhood for this like Trump accounts type of thing that he's launching, which again, why Robinhood, right? Like, why is Robinhood coming up? And there's this huge, massive push for tokenization. Travis, what are your thoughts on this?
I am a little disappointed in that you would even think for a brief moment that Vlad has flipped. This is
I'm posing the question. I'm posing the question.
No,
I never said I.
I
never said I did.
STDs or STDs. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, no. This is just PRBS. That's all it is. I mean, at the end of the day, they still are. The trades on Robinhood are being front run by Citadel because Citadel is basically buying their order information. I mean, that's all it is. Nothing has changed there. This whole going tokenization thing, I don't know how they're going to do it and still make a profit by running the way that they've been running. I saw that they're planning to use layer 2 off Ethereum, which is actually kind of cool because that goes back to the old GameStop marketplace stuff with Loopring and everything else. And I forget his name. The guy who was at GameStop, then went to Loopring, and then went somewhere else to build out layer 3.
Right.
So all kind of connected in a weird network, but at the same time, he ain't flipped. He's in it to make a buck for himself, just like all the other high-paid CEOs.
Again, it's hard. And again, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying it's the timing of events is highly odd, and especially with the fact that tokenization is obviously taking hold here. Tokenization is being pushed, obviously through the SEC. They're not waiting for this Clarity Act any longer. Trump is calling for the Clarity Act to be passed. I don't know. Are they trying to benefit Citadel? Who knows, right? I mean, it's a possibility because, look, let's be honest, when everything goes to blockchain and is tokenized, it's a lot harder for these individuals to short, right? And maybe they do want to pay for like this order flow and whatever it may be. Anon, anything else you'd like to add? We're going to move on here in just a moment. So please, anything else you'd like to add for the good people at home?
No, that was it. I'm grateful you guys let me share my experience, and I think it's a great debate on whether Vlad could have flipped or not. And I think when it's all said and done, we'll know in retrospect, obviously. But cool experience nonetheless. And I'm leaving the door cracked open in case he did choose to do the right thing. So thanks again, everybody, and you guys have a good night.
Right on. All right, you heard it from Anon. Chat, let's get some love for Anon on the way out. I gotta say, man, it is an interesting thing of events, right? Of what's going on here. Why he was invited there Obviously, if he only has GameStop, I don't think he shared his net worth. But I don't know. I mean, Anon, if you're still out there, let's hear it in the. I don't know if you wanted people to know your net worth, if that made a difference, but I don't know. I mean, are you a billionaire or what?
Put it in the private chat. No, that was pretty cool. I mean, to be invited to the event would be cool. I mean, it's like 200 people got invited, so it's very selective. I mean, I did do some due diligence on the story, and yes, Robinhood did have an event June 30th in Cannes, France. So pretty cool. It talks about a little bit about it, but it was a quick search, but it did in fact happen.
We have emotional damage out there with the 5. Appreciate the love, emotional. I don't think he knows he was at a Diddy party. I'm sure he's still trying to figure out why he's so oily. All right on. You heard it from emotional damage. We got Dunk Knots out there with the 5 PP Show gift to memberships. Appreciate your support, man. If you got a membership out there in the chat, be sure to give it thanks in the chat, man. Wow. I got to say, that's interesting stuff. Fresh on X with the 5. Vlad is 100% a white hat. At Edwin Barnes for the receipts called it a long time ago. So it seems there's a lot of people who are, some people are back and forth, things like that. If you're on YouTube, we're going to throw a poll up. I am curious what people think in general. Has Vlad flipped? Simple yes or no. Be sure to vote on your screens. Let's see. I think a lot of people are kind of in the middle about it, right? I do think that the connection to Citadel, it's hard for me to move past that. Some people have tried to say that Citadel has flipped. I don't fucking buy it, man. These guys are at the head of trying to destroy these great American fucking brands out there, right? They're sending all their money to these news outlets to write all sorts of fucking garbage about these companies, right? Especially like GameStop, trading at basically cash value right now. And all you see are news articles about how GameStop is shit and yada, yada, and this and that. And that's how they do these things, right? They use these algos, they obviously pay for the order flow, like Travis had mentioned, and they short the stock, right? So would love to hear your opinions out there in the chat as well. Don Knotts with the PP membership for 26 months. Holy cow. Appreciate the love, man. There's a big difference between centralized blockchain and decentralized blockchain. I expect that the shady players will be on the centralized side of things. That's a good point as well, right? DeFi, things like that, it has always been kind of more key, right? Especially like when you're looking at like places like Coinbase, things like that. Look, the best place to always keep your crypto is going to be in like these like hardware wallets, cold wallets. DeFi wallets is the best. Central exchanges can be hacked. It's happened many times before, right? Like hacks, sometimes they're inside jobs as well. But yeah, I mean, this guy makes a good point. Don Knotts out there as well. Centralized versus decentralized is something very key to be looking at as well when it comes to blockchain. There's, you got to study up on this stuff. Go ahead, Travis, if you want to add.
That is a great point. And real quick, while I see you, Mr. Zombie Bear, no, I am not in chat. I have some certain restrictions right now. I don't want to get into it. But I'm not on
you got
YouTube
banned?
or extra. No, I'm just not on my personal computer.
Oh, gotcha. I was going to say
certain network restrictions.
Oh, shoot. You could still get on the BB Show.
I could get on. I just had to kind of backdoor my way in. It was
put
fun.
It on like a proxy or something.
Something similar. We won't get into it, but I do want to touch on the centralized, decentralized. There's a huge difference between centralized and decentralized, especially on blockchain. Talking about crypto security tokens. Now, are they going to tokenize shares, or are they just tokenizing a stock in general? There's a lot of questions that are still unanswered. I know Edwin has done some research on this, but that was a great point of bringing it up. The difference between centralized and decentralized exchanges will make a big difference when it comes to what are these blockchain exchanges going to be like.
For me, Citadel could buy fucking 100 million shares of GameStop and I still wouldn't fucking believe it. I mean, I don't know. I simply can't. I can't move past the fact that, what they've done to retail shareholders, right? I mean, like flip or not, like I can't my brain can't go there. You know what I mean? So
one more thing before I forget. I know some
Sure.
people are talking about it's trading at less than book value or not. No, book value is somewhere between 11 and 12 right now by my last calculation.
even with the eBay position and all the cash they have on hand, $12.
So the
That
eBay
can't.
position
That
is
doesn't
nothing
sound
more than
right.
an unrealized gain. I mean, it's not realized yet. We don't know what they're going to do with it. We don't know if they're going to stay invested. Now they're talking about, well, maybe we'll move on and stock price is going to tank. So is it even a realized gain anymore? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how things pan out. I don't think for the life of me that this is something that has never been done before. I mean, a small company overtaking a bigger company and trying to do some type of reverse merger or acquisition that way. Sorry, my dog. But buying stock in another company that's larger than you has been done before. This
Right.
isn't something that's never been done before. I think there's something still in the works here. We just have yet to see the full picture.
Someone in the chat said Travis is an expert on the back door.
I
All right.
cannot confirm nor deny these allegations against me.
I'm going to run this video here real quick of CEO Vlad talking. I can't remember this guy's name here, but we'll take a quick peek at this.
Tokenization, we're at the beginning of a super cycle, and it's going to take over the entire financial system. Now, a month ago, we launched Robinhood Chain outside the US, and this is our crypto blockchain. And one of the interesting things about it is it includes stock tokens as a primitive, which give tokenized exposure to US stocks. Now, we started with 90 of them. Now we're up to 190. And these trade 24/7. And you can move them around the blockchain like you can Bitcoin or any other crypto asset. And what they really do is give exposure to US stocks to people in over 120 countries. And I think this provides a roadmap for what the financial system can look like. Now, I think tokenization in the US has come up, and I'd say it's broken up into two camps. There's sort of two sides to it. On one side, enthusiasts that just want to get their hands on this new technology, new capability, and they're asking us, when is it coming to the US? What's that going to look like? On the other side, there's people that say, well, we already have simple access to markets here. We have products like Robinhood that provide fractional shares, 24/5 trading. Maybe it's not 24/7. So what's even the point? And so through my post, I kind of outlined the three key improvements on an infrastructure level that can actually impact people's lives in a positive way and make it easier in America for people to become investors and owners of our great economy.
So Robinhood's not going to be the only one that tokenizes stocks, right? There's a big push right now on the NASDAQ. I think I have the post here that I can show everybody here. There's a big push right now to tokenize everything, right? I mean, this is one right here. Just in, NASDAQ officially begins talks with regulators to enable a 24-hour stock trading, right? So it's not just Robinhood. It's going to be places like Fidelity. It's going to be places like, other exchanges, E-Trade, things like that. I mean, this is like the push to tokenize everything, right? And I think the whole thing is very interesting, right? Especially with like the timing that everything we've been talking about, kind of the research that we've done from also, the research on T0 and new Bed Bath & Beyond. And the fact that they've tokenized Baby, they've tokenized the Bed Bath name as well. It's not just Robinhood that is going to be basically heading this route here. And there's one last post about Robinhood, and then we'll move on from it, which I found a little bit interesting here. It said, Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev says we are in the early innings, right? Something that Bill Pulte would say of global tokenization supercycle that will eat the entire financial system. Tenev is urging the U.S. to clear the path for tokenized stocks, urging that real-time settlement, 24/7 trading, and asset portability could modernize American markets. So it's going to be all the exchanges, right? It's not going to be solely just Robinhood. So let's move on from that. We had 61% out in the chat said no.
It's centralized.
Is he saying decentralized in the post?
No, I'm saying it's centralized.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, there's a big difference between the two. 61% in the chat said, hell no, he hasn't flipped. So Yeah. All right, let's take a look at. I wanted to cover this post here. Then Alpha is going to join us on the show for a little bit here. I found this post to be very interesting. I'm going to read through it for everybody out there. This is from Goatbeards DD. It says the GameStop Berkshire playbook. Ryan Cohen said Berkshire Hathaway. It's similar to Berkshire Hathaway, except what Berkshire did in decades. Sorry, Wally, did you have anything you wanted to add in terms of this? I forgot to ask you. My apologies. If not, it's all good. We can move past it. Tokenization, any of this stuff.
I was just gonna say one thing I've always kind of maintained. I mean, I was there in 2021, whatever, and absolutely no Robinhood and the Vlad Tenev thing. But once I started learning about Ken Griffin and Citadel in the back end, I mean, I never really understood why there was so much persistent ill will towards Vlad, because he's structurally in the way that everything happened, he's kind of just in a position where he's Citadel's little bitch. Like he's just running it. He's running a technology company that has a great user interface and like mobile apps and web interface to like democratize finance, whatever he's saying he is. But they're just building all of these higher level, like higher layer applications, like a layer 1 application on top of a layer 0, which is Jane Street, Citadel, Susquehanna, Virtue. Like he doesn't have another option to layer his market user interface and customer acquisition and like book of business on top of. He's basically like in bed with the mafia essentially, and they put him in a position where they were like, you have to do what we tell you to do or else. So I'm not saying like back then he was a good guy or we should have been thankful or great. I mean, Robinhood screwed everybody over. I'm not saying he didn't, but absolutely. As we learned more about everything, it's just like, what option did he have? Your boss shows up and tells you you must do something. Like, that's a challenging time to take the moral high ground and be the cause of all sorts of problems. And all of a sudden your service providers, the market makers, don't want to work with you anymore. So I don't really think about it much more than that. I just kind of graduated from thinking he was the problem. And I think part of this process we've all been on, I remember when they turned the buy button off and the stock dropped in hours from like $500 something down to like 300 or 250 or whatever it was. I was like, I don't know what the fuck just happened, but like, I'm going to learn as much as I can and try to figure this out. Like I know like something criminal happened. That's the only explanation. That's all I knew at that time. And it's been this crazy journey of figuring out, like, I didn't know what DRSing was in January of 2021. Like, we learned so much along the way, and it took me a couple months, but I was eventually in a position where I was like, oh, Vlad, yeah, like he's like, I'm no fan of Robinhood or Vlad, but fuck that Ken Griffin guy. Like he's the one that showed up into the room, made the phone call, even though allegedly he didn't. We listened to the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings and whatever. But like, anyway, that's my 2 cents on the whole tokenization and Vlad Tenev thing. It's totally within the realm of possibility to flip to becoming a white hat, because if you put yourself in Vlad's position, you're running a business. You just want to run your business. You want things to work. You want happy customers. You want to maintain a good brand image. You're trying to grow. And then all of a sudden, because of all sorts of problems that are caused by your business partners that have a ton of leverage over you, are saying, you need to stick your neck out. We need to sacrifice your brand image and your reputation because we were doing shit that, we weren't managing our liabilities correctly, and your brand must suffer for it. I'm telling you what, if I'm Vlad, if I'm running that company, if I'm running Robinhood and that happens to me, I'm pissed. I am pissed, and at that point, I'm looking for a long-term strategy to find new service providers. And through that lens, I think it's totally reasonable. Like, I don't know what happened, but I think it's totally reasonable that he could have flipped, and that this tokenization super cycle, which is a real thing, may be the opportunity for him to secure new business partners, infrastructure providers.
Hanky out in the chat says, didn't he lie under oath as well? And Mr. says, TD turned off the buy/sell for 3 days. You had to call in. Wait time was over 8 hours long. I've never seen in my history of trading anything like this before. Turning off the buy. I mean, these guys were finished, man. This was it. This was going to run to tens of thousands of dollars a share, man. Okay, and at the time, I was fully convinced, man. I was probably out there in Reddit at the time screaming the same thing. This thing is going to tens of fucking thousand, man. It's going to 100 fucking thousand, and then 1 million. Okay, because people were buying. You know, people were fucking buying, and they cheated retail out. They shut the fucking buy button off, and to make it even worse, they just gave you a fucking sell button, right? So it's like the whole thing was fucking rigged, right? And I still haven't got over it, man. This was going to 1 million, man. All right, go ahead, Travis.
Right.
And I'm going to read this DD here. Go ahead.
3 really quick things. One, I always found the irony in people that were on Reddit at the time. We're always saying $1,000 a share isn't a meme, and I'm sitting there going,
definitely not.
I kind of put my limit sell for $25K a share.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a decent price.
I was trying to front run both you guys. I was going to sell at 800 because only.
This is during the run up before we knew what we know now. I mean, now that price has gone up substantially.
It was going to go out infinite, man.
And then define irony. The whole market corruption as we see it, where it's not real shares, it's entitlements, but people don't really know. Like, we learned so much in those 2 to 3 years, now 5 years. It's incredible the amount of knowledge we have now about how the inner workings of our markets, that I find it ironic to this day that the company called GameStop is literally what made the game stop in a way.
That's a good point.
And the company called Robinhood, which is supposed to take from the rich and give to the poor, did the actual opposite for retail investors. You can't write
you can't make this shit up. Yeah,
you can't.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. All right, I'm gonna read this DD here because we got Alpha that wants to drop in. I'm sure he has some stuff he wants to share with us. So let me get through this. There's some interesting stuff here. You're gonna like it towards the end once we hit this date, and then I show you something right after. Okay, so it says here, the GameStop Berkshire playbook. It says Ryan Cohen said Berkshire Hathaway, it's similar to Berkshire Hathaway, except what Berkshire did in decades, we're attempting to do in a much shorter time in terms of creating that much value. Everyone heard that and thought he was being aspirational. A young CEO comparing himself to Buffett. He was describing the structure, the playbook. Warren Buffett used the same 2-instrument architecture 3 times across 3 major deals. Goldman Sachs, September of 2008, $5 billion in perpetual preferred stock, paying a 10% annual dividend. Warrants to purchase $5 billion of common stock at $115 a share, exercisable over 5 years, and a private offering. General Electric in October of 2008, $3 billion in perpetual preferred stock, paying a 10% annual dividend. Warrants to purchase $3 billion of common stock at $22.25 a share, private offering as well. Bank of America in August of 2011, $5 billion in preferred stock, paying a 6% annual dividend. Warrants to purchase 700 million shares of stock at $7.14 a share. You can't make that shit up. Exercisable over 10 years. Private offering as well. Berkshire Hathaway invests $5 billion in Goldman Sachs amid global financial crisis. And, last time I checked, when Larry Chang attended the ThePPShow, he said some very big words here. He said rooms like what you have are going to be more powerful and influential than a Goldman Sachs, right? He was saying this directly to the ThePPShow, the community of people who had showed up and attended this event alongside with Bill Pulte. I mean, some absolute major words, right? And I don't think I've ever heard Larry repeat this either to other investors, to my knowledge, right? It goes on to say 3 separate deals, but the same architecture every time. 1 instruments for downside protection, preferred stock with a guaranteed dividend. If the common stock collapses, you still collect your 6 to 10% annually, and you get your principal back at redemption. 1 instrument for upside participation, warrants at a defined strike price. If the stock recovers, you exercise and capture the entire spread between the strike and the market price. Both instruments issued through private placements to a single institutional counterparty, Berkshire Hathaway. The preferred is the investment. The warrants act as the kicker. Together, they give the capital provider full downside protection and full upside participation through two legally separate instruments in one transaction. On the Goldman deal alone, Berkshire earned $3.7 billion in 3 years, $1.27 billion in preferred dividends. Then Buffett exercised the warrants in 2013 for $2 billion in cash plus 13.1 million shares of Goldman stock. That is the Berkshire playbook. Cohen's architecture. Now look at what Cohen built. The convertible notes in March and June of 2025, 4.25 billion $4.2 billion in zero coupon convertible senior notes, 1.5 billion in 2030 notes, 2.7 billion in 2032 notes, 1.4 billion sold as 144A private placements to qualified institutional buyers, 2.8 billion remain as debt. Zero coupon means no interest payments. The note holder's return is guaranteed, par value at maturity. 1,000 per note, no matter what the stock does, that is downside protection. The same function as Buffett's preferred stock. The GMEW's warrants, are $32 a strike price, and they expire on October 30th of 2026, expiry. If the stock reaches and holds above $32, the warrants are exercisable. The holder captures the spread between $32 and the market price. That is the upside participation. The same function as Buffett's warrants on Goldman at 115, on GE at 22.25, on Bank of America at 714. The mapping: Berkshire's preferred stock equals Cohen's convertible notes. Downside minus I think he means downside protected instrument with guaranteed return. Now it goes on to say here, Berkshire's warrants equals GME warrants, upside participation at a defined strike. Berkshire's private placement to one institutional counterparty equals Cohen's 144A private placement to qualified institutional buyers. Buffett personal capital as vote of confidence equals Cohen's 500 million GP commitment. Goldman's public equity raise alongside the private deal equals GameStop's ATM offerings alongside the convertible issuance. Preferred stock converting or redeeming into equity equals convertible notes exchanging into Class A common stock on September 23rd. Warrant exercise bringing additional capital into the company equals GMEW's exercise bringing additional capital at $32 a share by October 30th. Okay. And keep in mind this number here as well, September 23rd as well. Preferred stock converting or redeeming into equity equals convertible notes exchanging to Class A common stock on September 23. Okay. Very key date, in my opinion. It goes on to say every component maps. This is the same playbook. GameStop announces private exchange of $1.4 billion of convertible senior notes for equity. The key difference is Buffett used this architecture to invest in companies during a crisis. He was the outside capital. He showed up with $5 billion, collected his preferred dividends, waited for the stock to recover, then exercised his warrants and walked away with billions in profit. Cohen is using the same architecture to build the holding company itself. The convertible notes were the mechanism to recruit the institutional shareholder base. The 144A buyer who purchased those notes are the same class of capital that holds 105% of eBay's float. When 1.5 billion of those notes convert into equity, those institutions go from creditors to shareholders. They went from holding a guaranteed return to holding equity in the acquirer with unlimited upside. The warrants are the trailing capital call. If the stock clears at $32 after the $29 convertible ceiling is diminished, the warrants activate and bring additional capital into GameStop's treasury. That capital funds the next phase. Buffett's version was passive: invest, collect, exercise, profit, rinse and repeat. Cohen's version is operational: issue notes, recruit institutions, exchange into equity, launch tender, exercise warrants from Holdco. And this would also make sense why that GameStop would preferably be the ones who take over the DK Butterfly shell, right? $2.7 billion in Knowles, right? If they're heading towards, yeah, go ahead.
More than that.
How much?
Well, they went back and audited 2018, 19, and 20.
Right. And that leads us
the
with what?
CARES Act, you were able to get additional net operating losses. Now, what we don't know is if the Department of Treasury actually issued them a refund during that time, because if they issued them a refund during that time, and all of a sudden they had additional net operating losses. The refund could be even substantially more. I don't think that was the case. I think it's just going to be baked into the nulls that there was an additional 1.9 billion in nulls that were applied to the company's tax books from the 2018-2019 timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
I could be off of my years. It may have been 17 through 19 or 18 through 20, but there was a very, very good post about that. I think we're talking about substantially more, almost double the amount of nulls that were originally thought of.
You know what's interesting about the nulls, if it is like that $2.5 billion number, and I think it is higher, but if you estimate the corporate tax rate just around, it's about 20%. That gives the cash value of the nulls $500 million. What's interesting at that number is that is the same amount of cash that Ryan Cohen made as an offer to buy the company back in December of 2022. So you offer $400 million?
It was $400 million in December.
Okay, well, round down the corporate tax rate.
He offered $500 million of his own cash now, which is interesting. So I mean, you still have that.
It's in the ballpark of it would be interesting because if he was looking at nulls as the cash equivalent value, or if he were to go into bankruptcy, which I think he thought it would eventually after he sold his shares because the board wasn't following his actions or his recommendations and they were on a path towards failure. He's like, well, like I'm going to get 500. If I got this in bankruptcy, it would be worth, the shell would be worth 500 million or so. I don't think we need to dwell on the subject. I just think it's an interesting correlation.
I think it's also interesting that the fact is that if you were to exercise all these warrants, it literally perfectly matches the amount of debt that DK Butterfly has, 1.8 billion in debt. So I find that to be very interesting as well, right? The fact that they're most likely financing this thing on the back of these like warrants, right? The fact is that 2-year null window ended, or I'm sorry, 2-year not the null window. The null window is coming up on the 3-year, but the change of control, right? 2-year window change of control of September 29th of 2023. Just 7 to 8 days later, you have new Bed Bath & Beyond and GameStop issuing warrants on the exact same day, right? I don't find that to be a coincidence. We also know in the language, there's this like, obviously there's like joint partnerships going on, joint sharing of some of the IPs, things like that. So there is most likely multiple parties here. Is it solely GameStop? Maybe not, right? There's a strong possibility that it's GameStop and also Bed Bath & Beyond. I mean, we forget that Bill Pulte kind of, had this space call with us and brought attention Marcus Lemonis, who later became the CEO of Bed Bath & Beyond, Overstock, and who would end up buying these IPs, right? So I do think that there is a lot of connections here in general, right? When it comes to some of this stuff, especially because the math just maths. And yes, if what we've been seeing, right, when Goat Beards attended the show last week, one thing he pointed out is that GameStop has had 8 consecutive great quarters, right, in terms of profit. Well, how do you offset all these taxes is you acquire the shell DK Butterfly. And it's not only the nulls, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I could see the shell. It probably just has like, value in terms of nulls. That's not the only thing. You're talking about an insane amount of short positions that would be obligated to cover the short position upon new equity. You're talking about it's common sense that a white knight would come in, acquire this shell, issue the new stock, and it's going, whatever they pay out to acquire this fucking thing, 1.8 billion in debt, whatever it may be to clear the debt to make shareholders whole, you're going to fund this on the back of short sellers who thought this thing was absolutely dead, right? And yes, it is a fact that these short positions, if we get shares, guess what? These assholes who shorted also are on the hook on these obligations. That is a fact, right? Yeah.
Y'all remember barcoding? For
yes.
Days on end?
I remember. Yeah. Months.
Y'all remember
like
we're on Reg Show for days on end, even though they supposedly issued, an additional 500 million shares. And
correct.
How do you have FTDs when issuing all these shares, and there's shares available, but you still have FTDs that are putting you on reg show for endless days.
Yes.
And you're barcoding and barcoding and barcoding day after day after day after
Well,
day
because
after
there was
week.
probably only 117 million shares out there, right? There maybe is a possibility that the full 600 plus million did not, in fact, hit the street, right? It could have been.
And then we traded almost 1 billion shares in one day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
PP,
Yeah.
real quick. I've got to drop here. I've got a meeting I have to attend in a few
No
minutes.
worries, man. Yeah, no worries.
So if I can just do closing thoughts here really quick, but check the backstage chat on this subject about what would happen if when stock reemerges and managing that short liability. I've got an X post. I can walk.
You want me to show it real quick? Yeah, before you go.
Quick, and I gotta
Yeah,
drop.
yeah. Here you go. Go ahead.
All right, this is super interesting with the warrants because, like, in terms of what could happen, like, it's not just like PP was saying. It's not just the nulls that would that maintain value within the shell. The way I interpret it, there's 3 value components there, and 2 are intrinsic. 1 is extrinsic. The 2 intrinsic components. I'll start with the extrinsic. The extrinsic component is it's Ryan Cohen's brand. It's his word. He wrote to the Bed Bath & Beyond board that if they didn't do the right thing, that he would hold them accountable. And
he did say that, yeah.
And he wrote the same thing to the eBay board this year. He said, if you don't do the right thing, paraphrasing, I'm going to hold you accountable. What he said to eBay this year holds absolutely no gravity at all if he doesn't show up and demonstrate to the world that he held the Bed Bath & Beyond board accountable. So that's the extrinsic component. That's valuable, but it's only valuable to Ryan Cohen. The 2 intrinsic components are the nulls, which we talked about, and what PP brought up, the short liability. And what's super interesting with that short liability is just how weird this whole BBBY into BYON back into BBBY or OSTK, Overstock bought the intellectual property. OSTK becomes BYON. BYON becomes BBBY. And now BBBY becomes NXH.
Yeah.
And also Pulte making the connection and introduction to PP prior to Marcus Lemonis becoming the CEO of Overstock and then BBBY is super strange. And I saw someone on X the other day, West Coast, I retweeted and quoted with an opinion. But what he outlines here is, like, on top of it just being so irregular that a ticker changes, a company changes its public ticker 4 times in less and not as many years. That's just something that doesn't happen. But when a ticker does change, which happens more often, if there are warrants outstanding, what should happen is the naming convention for the warrant would follow the new name of the stock that's traded. So what should have happened under normal situation would be when BBBY turned into NXH, those warrants that were BBBYWS would have changed to NXHWS. But what we learned, and I think Owl of the Matrix and a lot of people last year were talking about, like, the Fiji numbers and things like that. And we learned about the QSIP and the ISIN and thought it was really strange that when BBBY or Overstock issued those warrants last year, strangely at the same time as GameStop, which is just anomalous and inexplicable, the securities that originated from those warrants had the QSIP or the ISIN, I forget, but a unique identifier tied to the legacy estate. So now that we're creeping up on expiration and the BBBY ticker has changed, what should have happened with the warrants should have changed their symbol as well to NXH.WS.
But they didn't. Yeah, that's a good point.
But they did not. And
right.
That is, so that's like, you've got all of this huge set of anomalies where originally so first off, they were originated at the same time as the GameStop warrants. Then they were originated with reference to the legacy QSIP from the bankrupt equity, not the legacy QSIP for OSTK. And now that it's being renamed again, that the ticker is now trading as NXH, but the warrants maintain the legacy connection to BBBYQ and have the QSIP connection there as well. So, and that would be that, to me, the reason I brought this up now, PP, is you're saying there's the naked shorts element of this as well, and the massive liability that needs to settle. This, to me, appears to be the path directly to that naked short liability. and expiration's right around the corner. But I got to drop. I love you all.
All right.
One thing really quickly. I don't know if anybody watches the Budget for Life YouTube channel, but it's a GameStop only YouTube channel. Check the guy out. One of the best GameStop only up until today content creators that I follow. He posts an hour-long video sharing a great story and an objective analysis with less context than we talk about here on the PP Show about the Teddy situation and DK Butterfly. And it's a great story. It's a great video. And we're really starting to see GameStop only folks come around that are like, Teddy's on the way. And it looks like it was Ryan Cohen with Bed Bath & Beyond making it happen. But love the PP Show. Thanks for having me on, PP. Travis, good to see you. Love the chat.
Anytime.
You all take care.
All right, take care. Let's get some love for Wally on his way out. Excellent stuff on the way out, my man. Take care.
Yeah, bye.
All right, you heard it from Wally here tonight. I don't know. I think the whole thing is very interesting, right? Where we're at in terms of what's going on here. But let me finish up this post, and then we'll bring in Alpha so he can give his opinion, and then we can keep moving from here. Do you want to add anything,
Sounds
Travis?
good. No, just
Okay.
Wally, if you happen to still be on, great to see you as always, man. We wish you well, and can't wait to catch up again.
So it says here, the permanent capital layer. Berkshire Hathaway has one structural advantage that no other conglomerate has ever replicated: insurance float. Berkshire owns Geico, General Re, and the portfolio of specialty insurance companies. Those businesses collect premiums upfront and pay claims later. The gap between collection and payout is the float. Buffett invests that float. As of 2025, Berkshire's issuance float exceeded $170 billion. Float is a permanent capital. It costs nothing to hold. It doesn't redeem. It doesn't demand quarterly returns. It just sits there compounding for decades. That is the engine that powers everything Berkshire does. Cohen doesn't have issuance companies. He doesn't have float. He has sovereign wealth. 2 days after the May 3rd bid, Enterprise AM published a refinancing breakdown showing approximately $26 billion in SWF equity participation. GCC Financial Press does not speculate about sovereign wealth fund involvement. If they published that on May 5th, those conversions were happening before the bid was announced. GameStop is turning to the GCC to fund its USD 55 billion bid for eBay, is what the article says. It does say here, and just like Buffett never took common stock on his major investments, the SWF would not take common stock on 26 billion commitment either. Think about it from the other side. No sovereign wealth fund takes 26 billion in common stock risk on a company in the middle of an acquisition. They need downside protection. They need seniority in the capital structure. They need a guaranteed return mechanism. They are not retail investors writing the common stock. Buffett at Goldman preferred stock, not common, 10% guaranteed annual dividend. Redemption at 10% premium senior to every common shareholder. If Goldman collapsed, Buffett got paid before anyone holding common saw a dollar. Buffett at Bank of America, same structure, preferred stock at 6% dividends, senior to common, protected on the downside. Buffett never took common on the initial investment. He always took preferred. The common exposure came through the warrants, which he could exercise at his discretion if and when the stock recovered. The SWF is playing the Buffett role in the deal. They would come in at the holdco level as preferred equity, guaranteed preferred return, senior to common shareholders in the capital structure, liquidation preference above common, potential warrants or conversion rights in common for upside participation. This is why convertible exchange is for common stock and the SWF tranche is almost certainly preferred. They said at different levels of the same stack, the converted note holders gave up their downside protection, the guaranteed par, to take common. They moved down the capital structure voluntarily. They are now below where the SWF would sit. They did that because they believe the common stock upside is worth more than the safety of par. This is a directional signal. The SWF doesn't need to make that bet. They get their preferred return either way. The upside, if they want it, comes through warrants or conversion options on their terms, on their timeline. One of the institutions who want equity exposure. One of the sovereign capital that wants permanent protected positioning. Both mapped directly from Berkshire. Sovereign wealth capital has the same properties as insurance float. It doesn't demand quarterly returns. Sovereign wealth funds operate on generational time horizons, not fund life cycles. It doesn't redeem. There is no LP for asking for money back in the year 7. The capital stays. It sits as a permanent preferred equity at the holdco level. In the Berkshire model, float sits in the holdco level and gets deployed into operating subsidiaries. In Cohen's model, SWF preferred equity sits at the holdco level and anchors the capital structure above the TD, debt above the common equity. Hold on one second. Okay. It says insurance float built Berkshire over 6 decades. Sovereign wealth preferred equity is the accelerant that lets Cohen attempt the same thing in a compressed timeline. What Berkshire did in decades, we're attempting to do in a much shorter time. He told you how. You just had to know what float does in Berkshire's model to understand what the SWF preferred does in his. The full capital stack mapped Berkshire Hathaway insurance float, permanent capital, no cost, no redemption, deployed into operating subsidiaries, Geico, BNSF, Dairy Queen, Sea Candies, preferred stock plus warrants used for individual deal structures, Buffett's personal equity as a founder alignment as well. Cohen's holdco from the top to bottom, you have TD Securities senior secured debt, $20 billion, first claim on cash flows, acquisition financing, SWF preferred equity, $26 billion, permanent capital, guaranteed preferred senior to common, the Buffett position, the insurance flow equivalent, GameStop's operating cash, $5 billion. The balance sheet contribution from ATM offerings reducing after building the 9.8% eBay toehold. Cohen's GP commitment, which is the $500 million. Converted note holders, $1.4 billion in Class A common stock. GME warrants, $32 strike, October 30 expiry as well. And we have the SWF preferred replaces insurance float. Okay. Convertible notes replaces Berkshire's preferred stock as the recruitment mechanism. The GME warrants replace Berkshire's deal specific warrants. Cohen's $500 million replaces Buffett's personal stake, and the holdco structure replaces the Berkshire parent entity. Berkshire took 60 years to build because Buffett had to grow the insurance float organically. He had to buy Geico. He had to build General Re. He had to wait for the float to compound. Cohen's skipping all of this. The sovereign wealth fund is prepared equity is a pre-built float. It arrives fully formed, $26 billion in permanent capital on day one, anchoring the holdco the way $107 billion in issuance float anchors Berkshire's today. That is what that is what in a much shorter time means. Now, I'm about to show you guys what the September 23rd. September 23rd, one more thing. The Buffett-Goldman deal was announced on September 23rd, 2008. The GME convertible exchange closes on September 23rd, 2026. 18 years to the day, I'll let you decide what that means. Now, hold on a second. Let's back up just a moment real quick. Hold on. What's in this? Okay, yeah, no problem, Travis. Let's back up real quick just a moment here, okay? So it says here that the GME convertible exchange closes on September 23rd, 2026. Now, I find it very fucking odd, okay? On that same date leads us to September 24th, which was just announced today, for a annual shareholder special meeting proxy card for the new neighborhood intelligence, which is BBBY. I don't find it to be a coincidence at all that one day after, okay, I'm sure you guys can see this on your screens. One day after, okay, this meeting is going to take place when this convertible exchange closed on September 23rd. It's also highly bizarre, okay? I don't know if I showed you guys this, but yeah, the special meeting on September 24th. I also find it very bizarre that, that also, the day that we filmed the Office episode with Bill Pulte was September 25th of 2023, right? A day prior to this, we have 3 years later and a day prior, we have this special meeting taking place with the new neighborhood intelligence as well. All in all, I mean, the entire thing is just incredibly odd. And the fact is that the timeline, right, of like the issuance of warrants, things like that, I don't find it to be a coincidence at all. I do think that a lot of this stuff is connected here, and this is pretty much proof of that fact. From all the way back from the Bill Pulte episode, 3 years later, right? I mean, we're talking about a 3-year window that we had to wait. All of a sudden, there's these special meetings, the exchange for the GameStop convertible exchange closes on September 23rd. And then 5 days later, or 6 days later, equity was consummated and canceled as well, right? So again, I find it very interesting as well. All right, let's go ahead and pull in. We'll take a quick break there. We'll pull in Alpha here. Alpha can go over whatever he has. Then we have a couple more things. David Caston that we're going to cover, things like that I also found very interesting as well. Goatbeards on X says, yo, I didn't know the NXH meeting. That's crazy. Great connection. PP. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, right on. Excellent. I saw you were doing a space call today, man. Hope it was recorded because I missed it. We had to go live here at the show. All right, let's go ahead and bring in Alpha State. We'll see what's going on with Alpha State here tonight, and then we'll continue on with some of the David Casson stuff and take a look as well. Excellent DD from Goatbeards as well. Very nice connections, might I add. Chat, give a warm welcome to Alpha State. Alpha State, what's going on, my man? Welcome to the PP Show.
Good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. What's going on, my man?
Nice. I won't be that long, but I have, I wanted to see if it's okay with you. I had a 4.5 minute video that I like to share because it kind of ties in a lot of the, kind of everything going on. And I've streamed it a few times and a lot of people liked it, but
absolutely. Yeah. Let's see it. Let's watch it.
Cool. And before I'll send you the link. It's going to be on YouTube just because I have to figure out what's going on with that, because I was actually locked. My account was locked for 12 hours. I don't know if it was because posting that or something else, but so we'll see. Yes. But I'll send it to you right now in the private chat. One thing I just wanted to say really quick, just kind of going off what you guys are talking about with September and October is, there's so many things that are lining up in September, October. We talked about this even on your other stream. I can't remember which one it was. But pretty much all the big crashes, and if we think timing is everything with respect to RC, the Black Swan, all this stuff, and the Red October, everything's kind of lining up in that respect. And all those dates you guys are naming is pretty much the end of September, rolling into October. People can look back in history, and a lot of the major market crashes happened in October, like the Wall Street crash of 1929, Black Monday, 1987, Friday the 13th mini crash on October 13th, 1989. And then we have the October 27, 1997 mini crash, and then the 2008 financial crisis, which was in October of 2008. So, all those could probably line up. And, maybe something happens. And I think, kind of going back to your earlier point, is I think a lot of the stuff we're waiting for the tokenization, everything going to be on blockchain. And I think even the Clarity Act is just kind of like Kafabe stuff. I don't think it really matters when it passes. Sure, I think that's going to be maybe the official, signage. But I think everyone's already working on it. Like the regulatory agencies, the banks are all adopting it. So, that's kind of where we're all heading. So I think we just need an event.
Yeah, let's take a look at what's going on here with this video.
Okay. Yeah, and it might be a little difficult for some people to digest. It's going to tie everything together when you guys watch the whole thing. The first half is going to seem different from the second half, but it's going to tie in the political stuff with the investment stuff. And it's, I think some people really need to see the first half because I don't think a lot of people really understand what's going on.
Yeah, let's play it for everybody out there.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. kind of pulls in like everything into one video, and I still can't add everything, but you know, it's pretty much all the topics.
That was fucking awesome, man. A lot of people in the chat loved it. Yeah, I mean, excellent stuff, Alpha. I love the video, my man.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, and it's all AI. So I pretty much made it from scratch, and none of those videos exist on their own. So I basically pulled still images, modified them, and then basically animated them. So it's there's a lot of hidden gems in there. If people, you know, I'll probably post it later tonight. I don't know if it's going to get my account locked. But we'll
Is
see.
that what got your account locked?
Well, I posted something else and I got locked. I was in the middle of uploading it and then I got locked. And then I came back and I wasn't sure. I don't know, because there's another video it flagged, but it's totally unrelated. And so I actually don't know what's going on. So I'll see what happens. But so we'll see. But yeah, it's I think it's all going to come to a head, and you know, we'll see what happens. So excellent. Yeah, but I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Awesome. Travis, I don't know if you know, you're muted. I don't know if you're talking to us or.
No, I was talking to my significant other. She's
okay.
Yelling at me.
No worries. All right, Alpha, anything else you wanted to add, my man? Great stuff tonight. Anything else, my man? And we'll move on.
Yeah, one last thing. Holy shit, I forgot to, here, let me send this to you. It's quick. It's nothing. It's just to show you guys. Okay, so I picked that song randomly, right? Started editing this video, and then look what, put in the private chat. Look what the chop, you can't make this stuff up.
Let me pull it up. Let's see.
Yeah. It's the last thing I'll share with you, and I'll go.
The chop. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at that. So this is from the song. That's the album cover of the song I used, is with a bunch of teddy bears.
Oh, Uprising. Wow. What are the odds of that? Yeah. Uprising. Yeah. Muse.
So,
good stuff.
So we'll
all right. Good stuff, man. We'll appreciate you stopping by and sharing your video with everybody here tonight. Right on. Let's get some love for Alpha on the way out. Appreciate you sharing that, my man.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Take care, man.
See you.
All right. You heard it from Alpha State. All right. Let's take a look here. Travis says he'll be back in 30 seconds. No problem. All right. Let's take a look. There was another post that I wanted to cover here this evening. That was a fantastic post. Let me go ahead and pull it up for everybody here. It has to do with Sixth Street Lending Partners, planned and executed as well. Okay. So this post, it goes on. We'll go ahead and dive straight into it. It says, so first I will introduce you to a timeline of events pertaining to connections between Ryan Cohen and Sixth Street Lending Partners. I will start with all connections I have deduced that IMO logically place him with the vehicle at the crime scene. Then I will share newly founded information that paints a very coincidental sequence of events with Sixth Street Lending Partners, which IMO only strengthens the thesis that Ryan Cohen affiliates are behind said vehicle. Travis, I don't know if you're here, but I'm going to send you. Yeah.
No, I'm just sorry that I kind of missed a little bit of Alpha. I was scarfing down some dinner, and then I got called away for about 30 seconds. So sorry that I missed him. Saw the video though; that was dope. And I can see we're back to Goatbeard's post. So don't let me interject. Go ahead.
So actually, this is calculus of none. This has to do with Sixth Street. I think you'll probably like this one as well. So
I will have to look back at this again. I'm restricted from social media on my current platform.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So it says here, nothing in this article is investment, financial, or sexual advice, stimulation. Channel your inner autism and let's dive into the matrix. Small note, I'm going to provide a lot of links and less pictures for the article limits the number of pictures I can use, so I will use them sparingly. March 24th of 2022, Ryan Cohen's cooperation agreement with Bed Bath & Beyond. Click link to go to Exhibit 10.1 at the bottom if you want to read the agreement. Okay. 2 weeks later, April 5th, Sixth Street Lending Partners was created. We also have August 31st of 2022, Sixth Street and Bed Bath agreed to a revolving credit facility, aka the FILO loan, the first in, last out. Following that, on October 18th of 2022, the Bed Bath bond exchange, which we have. We also have the November 14th and 16th, 2022, two separate exchanges of bonds for common stock completed as per the 12/6/22 Form D filings. Link for the amended S4, 11/16/22 is linked here. And you have the bottom links as well. We have quite a bit of posts to get through, so I would click on every single one, but I urge people out there to go and reread this and actually source through the links. I did confirm that they are legitimate, though. It goes on to say here, January 2023, attempted LBO, event of default, Cash Dominion, Carol Flatten, Pamela motherfucking Corey, and Jonathan Foster are hired. Okay. He also has a couple of snippets here where it shows that Carol Flatten, which we know is the connection to Carl Icahn via Xerox. February 6th of 2023, HBC ATM preferred stock and preferred warrants. March 30th of 2023, HBC retires 70,004 preferred for 10 million common stock in exchange agreement. April 23rd of 2023, Bed Bath & Beyond files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Okay, now that we got the most basic timeline out the way, let's cut into some details about connections with Ryan Cohen to Sixth Street Lending Partners. First, let's start with the depositions. Most of these screenshots can be found from the case 122 CV 02541 TNM. Exhibit 1, we have highlighted here the question, did he say anything whether the company was trying to get funding from other sources? His answer was he didn't want specifics on that, but he did indicate he hoped that we were finding sources of cash. It goes on to say, okay, so so from your conversations, you gather that he was concerned about whether the company had enough cash. Yes, definitely. And was wondering whether you were going to find out other sources of cash. They answered yes. He was concerned about whether the company had enough cash. Yes, definitely. It goes on to say here, because as you know, in his conversations with Miss Edelman, he had a specific question about the revolver. Because as you know, in this conversation with Miss Edelman, he had a specific question about the revolver. Yeah. Exhibit 3, it also says, why would a shareholder want an NDA to get information about whether he or she is being diluted before other shareholders would receive it? Why would he want that is the answer. The question is, yeah. I think this is messed up and swapped. That's a good question. I perceive that he thought that if that were the case, he would have impact on that decision by being brought in under the tent. The question says, in other words, he could influence that decision. They say yes. To try to prevent that from happening, potentially, right, okay, or come to a different source if he had other sources. It goes on to say, because I was trying to figure out whether it was just that he wanted the information for the sake of curiosity, as opposed to some other purpose, but it looks like it's the latter, right? And they say yes. To me, the second screenshot itself confirms, but I guess we will keep going. In the comment, he states, for curiosity or opposed to some other purpose, but it looks like the latter, right? Yes. If you read through this deposition, you notice a growing theme that Cohen was poking around the summer of 2022 asking for cash/liquidity. That's a major clue. Let's keep going. Exhibit 4 is posted here. Okay, and specifically, what exactly? Well, the FILO is being considered. Okay, so what is that you're referring to? Yes. And they go on to say, at this point, by July 15th, did you discuss the FILO with any of his nominees? They say, yes, the board was aware of the FILO being considered. Okay, so the 3 board members on the board were fully aware of this. Okay, and specifically, what exactly? Well, the FILO is being considered. By July 15th, did you discuss the FILO with his nominees? They say, yes, the board was aware of the FILO being considered. So we have confirmation as early as July 15th, the FILO is being considered by Bed Bath & Beyond. We have an email attached here, July 21st of 2022, and it says, Harriet, hope all is well. I really appreciate the offer to meet you in person, but there's no need. We can talk via phone. We can talk via video or phone at any time. Happy to do so before September if you'd like. Best, Ryan. And I'm trying to remember, when did the CFO die?
August 2022.
1 month after this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to meet with Cohen.
Signed the FILO.
Yeah, it was August of 2020.
Within the next week, I just don't like talking about it, but yeah, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ryan sold August 17th, 18th?
Yes, 17th through the 18th. It goes on to say, here we have a dated letter from Harriet Edelman from Ryan Cohen dated July 21st of 2022. Happy to do so before September if you'd like, writes Cohen in his response email. What makes this even more interesting is the use of language and timing of the letter, because just above we established everyone was aware of the FILO being considered as early as July 15th. It says, here's a link to the original ABL agreement, which he has linked here. Inside it, you will notice that the FILO would have to be drawn on before September 2nd, of 2022. makes his before September statement stand out. 3 intersecting data points converging on one curious activist investor, Exhibit 6. Okay, between July 22nd of 2022 and August 17th of 2022, did you talk to Cohen again? They say no. They say, so was there no communication? They said 0, no emails, 0. Okay, and as we know, they keep asking the same question.
What was the date range? Go up.
That was July 22nd of 2022 to August, the sale date of 2022, where he goes completely silent.
Okay.
They keep asking him. He says he went dark, things like that. He completely stopped responding to them after that. Ryan Cohen, after his July 21st email, went dark. Exhibit 7, one thing I would like to note now that we can come back to later is the termination of Mark Triton filed here, which we have a snippet as well. Exhibit 8, I wrote in the past many articles on 6th Street and Ryan Cohen. I covered all of the above in detail, many connections in these 4 articles. There's part 1, kinky sex on X, kinky sex on X, part 2, part 3, and part 4, okay, endgame. The above is intended for a reader to quick recap so they can follow along with what I share next. The articles I linked are for a more in-depth coverage of details. I will admit some information has come forward since writing the articles where I have a different opinion, but the large general connections stand firm and correct. The new stuff. Here's a link to everything I am going to speak on below, okay? Starting with the first filing as well. He has linked here as well. It says 6th Street Lending Partners' first filing came days after Mark Triton's termination, waiting almost 2.5 months for its first filing after its April 5th, 2022 inception date, almost as if Cohen noticed the cash burn and where the company was heading and strategically changed course. 6th Street Lending Partners is a Delaware statutory trust organized as a non-diverse closed-end management investment company that operates as a business development company, BDC. Its purpose is to pool investor capital and use that capital primarily to make private credit investments, particularly secured loans to private and middle market companies. Investors provide capital commitments, which the vehicle can draw when needed. The money, therefore, comes from the vehicle investors rather than 6th Street simply funding their portfolio from its corporate balance sheet. The statutory trust structure provides a separate legal investment vehicle capable of owning loans and other assets, while the BDC framework provides the regulatory and tax structure for operating a publicly reporting private credit investment company. The vehicle is externally managed by 6th Street Lending Partners Advisor LLC, an affiliate of 6th Street Partners. 6th Street professionals are responsible for sourcing opportunities, underwriting them, negotiating transactions, making investment recommendations/decisions through the investment management process, monitoring portfolio companies, and managing investments through repayment, restructuring, or other outcomes. The advisor is compensated through a base management fee calculated primarily from the value of the company's investment assets and an incentive fee tied to the investment income. And realized capital gains, therefore, 6th Street can earn both recurring compensation for managing the capital and additional compensation when the portfolio generates investment income and gains. The exact fee percentage vary by the applicable agreement and fee base, but the fundamental economic arrangement is management fees for the running capital and incentive compensation for investment performance. Travis, speaking of 6th Street, whatever happened with getting that guy on the show, the CEO of 6th Street, I think we were trying to get on, right?
Oh, I haven't even reached out to him in a couple of years. I could maybe do so. That'd be cool.
What did he say when you had tried to get him on the show at the time? He couldn't or what?
No, his exact words weren't that he couldn't. It was that he appreciated the invite and everything else. His name was Alan Waxman, by the way.
Alan Waxman, yeah, that's his name.
But he just basically said not at this time. They're trying to prioritize other things. Let me see if I can find him exactly.
They smelled the ThePPShow, know what we're discussing, man. They're like, hell no.
So his exact words were, Travis, thanks for reaching out. I rarely check LinkedIn mail, so apologies for delay here. Maybe at a later time, but right now, all of my focus of time outside of investing is on our existing investors. Nice to reconnect. Best, Alan.
They did their DD on the show, maybe. They're not touching this shit with a 10-foot pole. The questions that we could directly ask them.
NDAs are there. I mean, everything that, is being touched on here is correct about 6th Street and how they operate and the management fees. And they get the capital gains percentage of everything. And everything's based off certain deals and certain offerings. But so far, everything's on point.
Yeah. Okay. So it goes on to say here, the structure is particularly well suited to a situation involving a large distress credit opportunity because it separates capital investment management and the legal ownership of the credit asset. Investor capital can be pooled into the BDC. It says Sixth Street provides the professional private credit infrastructure, and the BDC itself can become the lender rather than an individual investor personally holding the debt. This makes a vehicle of this type capable of deploying substantial institutional capital into a secured financing, maintaining the position through a restructuring or bankruptcy, and exercising the rights associated with the resulting secured claim, including were legally permitted and subject to the bankruptcy court and government documents. Using the claim in a credit bid, BBBY, specifically Sixth Street Lending Partners, appears as a FILO term lender, making the vehicle architecture particularly relevant to a strategy centered on obtaining a secured position first and acquiring assets later. It goes on to say Sixth Street Lending Partners received an SEC exemptive order on August 3rd of 2022, allowing it to co-invest with Sixth Street affiliates in the middle market loan originations when the opportunity is larger than the amount of advisor independently determines is appropriate for lending partners to fund it by itself. Sixth Street explicitly says the reason this matters is that it allows its affiliated vehicles to provide a one-stop financing, meaning a single borrower can receive a large financing package assembled from multiple Sixth Street vehicles rather than Sixth Street Lending Partners having to fund the entire commitment itself. The order also permits certain follow on investments and requires protections involving independent directors and fair, equitable allocation. It says here that becomes particularly significant when placed beside the actual Bed Bath & Beyond FILO. The $375 million FILO was structured with Sixth Street Specialty Lending as an agent/lender, while subsequent credit agreement documents identify Sixth Street Lending Partners and other entities as FILO term loan lenders. Bed Bath & Beyond therefore provides a real-world example of multiple legal entities participating in the same large FILO rather than one entity necessarily carrying the entire exposure itself. The co-investment authorization provides the institutional mechanism for Sixth Street affiliated vehicles to combine their capital into a single financing opportunity, with each vehicle retaining its own investment interests. This is why co-investment filing matters. It turns the Sixth Street network from a one fund making one investment into a platform capable of assembling multiple pools of capital in one large credit transaction. This is a short piece on the Chubb insurance. Not sure if it's relevant to anyone, but I have seen only seen one post talking about Chubb insurance on X, and that is a post here from Jake 2B, which he linked. But here's Chubb in the filing here. Here is Chubb in this filing here for Sixth Street Lending Partners. And also Chubb was kept a secret for a long time too, multiple years as well, which I always found to be very odd connection to Warren Buffett as well. I know absolutely nothing about insurance. I think insurance companies are more scummy than lawyers. Here's how an AI summed up this insurance piece. Maybe some of you can explain it better. The Chubb Federal Insurance Company policy is the financial institution bond for asset managers that Sixth Street Lending Partners obtained as part of the formal infrastructure surrounding its investment operation. The significant point is that it is not ordinary insurance against investment losses. It protects the BDC against specified losses arising from fraud, dishonesty, theft, forgery, and certain electronic crimes. The policy carried a $20 million aggregate limit, including a particularly relevant $10 million trade or loan coverage for qualifying dishonest acts connected to trade or loan, plus $10 million categories for employee dishonesty on premises, losses, forgery, counterfeit, stuff like that. The $10 million trade or loan provision is specifically significant because the Sixth Street Businesses Lending it specifically addresses qualifying dishonest conduct arising from a loan or a trade. While the policy's broader controls protect the institutional machinery handling the investment capital and transactions, the policy costs $35,000 for the June 28, 2022 to June 28, 2023 period, and the filing was submitted under Rule 17G-1 with the Board of Trustees formally approving the bond's amount, type, form, and coverage. Okay. Now there's a lot here. It's a lot to read. So it goes on to say here, some other things I like to point out is you whoop-ass from Reddit has made a couple posts last year covering the financial statements from Sixth Street Lending Partners. Here's a couple of his posts listed. Now what I would like to bring your attention to is I am not a financial guru or anything, but the Q1 of 2025 Sixth Street Lending Partners paid off their credit line with Wells Fargo in full. And they reduced the commitment from 1.5 billion down to 500 million, and they issued notes expiring of 2030, I believe, to help pay down this 750 million worth. Something else to know is Q1 of 2025 is the exact time Sultan showed up in the picture with his tweet, Ryan Cohen, time for bigger and better partnerships. We have a couple pieces linked here, section 8.08, which is the credit bidding. And we also have down here highlighted, in connection with any such bid, the administrative agent shall be authorized to form one or more acquisition vehicles and to assign any successful credit bid to such acquisition vehicle or vehicles. In connection with any such bid, the administrative agent shall be authorized to form one or more acquisition vehicles and to assign any successful credit bid to such acquisition vehicle or vehicles. It goes on to show the Sixth Street Red River Credit Fund LP, which is the incorporation date of the 26th of April, 2023. That's literally 2 days after, 3 days after we had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy as well, which I think is a key date here. Agent name listed is Maples Fiduciary Services as well. It says here that it was created Sixth Street Red River Fund LP 3 days after filing for Chapter 11 on April 26, 2023. It says, which you can see the management by the same Sixth Street Advisor LLC that manages Sixth Street Lending Partners. Okay. It goes on to say here, hey, Atlanta Braves guy from the 13F mid page. It is my belief from day one that Ryan Cohen went through Sixth Street Lending Partners and along with his affiliates to secure assets and the Knolls. Bonus material. And also, I think Jake 2B had made a video as well about Sixth Street and HBC basically in the same sandwich, right? Which is a fantastic video from Jake 2B as well. I'm not sure if you had caught that one, Travis, or had the time to watch it, but it's good stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
I know what you didn't catch.
What?
No, my son was on screen for like 4 or 5 minutes.
There's so much to fucking read here. I did not even see it. Yeah.
No, he wanted to come on for a brief moment and say hi, but he
Right on.
went to finish his dinner.
He's a good kid. All right. Let's go ahead and finish this off. Bonus material. None of the Ryan Cohen thesis with Bed Bath is reliant on eBay. But for those of you wondering, just maybe if it is possible, I wrote a few articles covering a rejected eBay bid and the private all-cash offer. In my articles, I cover how DK Butterfly would create an operating company underneath it. That operating company would be funded with outside cash and ring fence financing. Here are the articles. Kinky is here. Is Kinky out in the chat tonight? Kinky, you should join the show and give us just your kind of thoughts about all of this stuff that you compiled here. In Article 2, I cover how Alibaba used the same footprint. So in the summary, if this had to do with eBay at all, my guess would be this: DK Butterfly creates an operating company underneath it. GameStop enters an operating partnership with the operating company, and the operating company takes on the TD loan, is infused with outside cash from investors. The blueprint is set up inside the structure of Sixth Street Lending Partners, which allows CO investing in outsourced funds inside their business development company. An all-cash offer is made from the operating company. DK Butterfly and affiliates own a majority stake. GameStop owns majority stake, uses equity accounting method to realize profit on the balance sheet while keeping risk isolated inside the operating company as well. Some closing thoughts for everybody out there in terms of this DD. Sixth Street Lending Partners was created specifically for the Bed Bath Q revolver. Cohen wasn't specifically asking questions about the revolver for fun and then writing an email with a deadline right before the date of the revolver had to be drawn. Happy to do so before September are some of the keywords that he used. Also, Gustavo Arnal, the narrative is that he was under pressure of this and swan dived off the Jenga tower. Well, why would a guy randomly suicide because of a pump and dump lawsuit? Not to mention that lawsuit had no merit against him, considering he had this, which he attached here. Highlighted in the bottom left, the transaction reported in Form 4 were effective pursuant to a Rule 10b5-1 trading plan. Do you see how the MSM narrative doesn't add up? A guy doesn't jump doing nothing wrong, but he died 1 day after the FILO was signed. Either someone found out that Cohen got the keys to the castle through the intellectual property and tossed him off the Jenga building, or he is witnessing protection spilling the beans on some sort of fraud within the company. He was the CFO after all, the guy you grabbed from accounting problems. Sixth Street Lending Partners' first investment was the FILO requested special rulings from regulators before entering into the FILO agreement planned and executed from day one. I wish I could add more to this. I haven't even told you about the Gordon brothers aspect. Maybe I'll do that in a follow-up piece. eBay or not, the butterfly will emerge from its cocoon. Wow. An absolute mouthful and excellent stuff from, I believe it's Kinky out there. Go ahead, Travis.
No, I want to know about the Gordon Bros. I'm curious as to any connection.
What is the Gordon Bros for some of the people out there who have no idea what that is?
They do a lot of things. They do a lot of bank covenants, loan covenants. They do testing. They do kind of like field audits, field work. That's just one aspect of them. They're a huge investment firm, but now I'm curious as to why that name was brought up. Actually, I have a meeting with Gordon Brothers tomorrow, so
that's interesting.
It makes it even more curious to me personally as to what kind of connection here.
Right.
But no, really good stuff. I think again, I share the sentiment. I'm careful about it. I don't know if the whole Gustavo death was staged or not, and I know it's a sensitive subject, so I try not to touch on it too much. I personally feel like it's more of a witness protection rather than what the story is. That
some people believe that, right? Because even Kai's, as crazy as he was, he couldn't seem to get a death certificate or things like that. And I try not to get involved in that route either, but it is very odd. I will say it's incredibly odd. Okay. We need to cover real quick David Kasten, right? There was a filing that had come up pertaining to David Kasten. This was from Bed Bath Q. I'm sure you guys probably saw it this week. David Kasten actually was in the S1, okay, 20 years ago. David Kasten is down here at the bottom, okay? And this is an S1 pertaining to GameStop. Now, you have to ask yourself, why would the lawyer of Bed Bath & Beyond end up in this filing when it comes to GameStop, right? And I thought this was very interesting as well. There was a snippet here that I want to add right here as well, where some people are saying, well, that was 24 years ago, right? 24 years ago. Well, if you actually look here, it's dated February 5th of 2002. Okay. This is credit to Andrew out there. February 5th, 2002 up there. And as you can see here on February 5th, 2023, okay, nearly 22 years later, Bed Bath & Beyond was finalized behind the scenes of a complex do-or-die equity offering with Hudson Bay Capital while under intense default pressure from its primary senior lender, Sixth Street Partners. Boom. There you have it. Travis, what are your thoughts on that? What's going on? You're not Travis.
Yes, I am.
What's going on, buddy? Let's hear it. What do you have for the good people at home tuning in tonight? What would you like them to know? We got a couple thousand people tuning in here tonight. Let's hear it.
I know that school sucks, and only the young.
All right, right on. All right, you heard it from Travis.
That's
all right.
On here.
All right, right on. You heard it from Travis's son. Right on, buddy. Travis, did he say school sucks?
He said school sucks, yeah.
Right on, yeah. I agree. Yeah, PP didn't really go to school, buddy, and now he can't read. So stay in school. All right. Travis, last night, Mrs. PP, she gave me a literacy test, right? And I got one. I don't even think I got any of the words right. I completely failed it. So yeah, school sucks, buddy, but you don't want to end up like PP here. All right. Stay in school.
You want to learn to read well, not good.
Yeah, right on. Travis, so did you happen to make this connection with David Kasten here, 2002, February 5th of 2002? You see David Kasten pop up in this GameStop filing in the S1, right? Happens to be the lawyer or attorney for Bed Bath & Beyond. And sure enough, February 5th, on the exact same 20 years later, they do this equity offering with Hudson Bay Capital. I mean, did you make this connection here?
I saw the connection, but 2002, I mean, that's a 20-year gap. It could just have been a securities lawyer doing what securities lawyers do at the time. I don't think there's necessarily any connection, but at the same time, it is really cool tenfold to like speculate on.
Well, if you think about it too, Ryan Cohen had said decades and centuries, right? This falls under decades. I mean, 20 plus years, that's decades, right? With an S. So I don't know, was he alluding to David Caston? We know that David Caston also posted the drink photos, right? And like, why would you be celebrating with Bed Bath & Beyond filing for bankruptcy? The guy was paid in shares. I think he received like 250,000 shares, if I'm not mistaken.
He also did have a salary that was established.
Yeah, but the salary, like the amount of shares that he got was significantly higher than what he was paid to do.
Yeah, and you touched on something earlier that I should have stopped you and paused you at the time, is like they converted the 70,004 preferred shares to 10 million shares, plus an additional 5 million shares to be redeemed at a later date that never really came to fruition. And so HBC either really got the short end of the stick, or they know something else is upcoming in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to have that many shares almost vanish because of a conversion, I mean, they couldn't convert enough, so they offered them 10 million shares plus 5 million in the future.
Right.
It just, none of that ever added up to me. It seemed like they either have material non-public information that they said, yes, we want these shares, because why else would you convert for a lesser value or lesser amount of shares from the conversion rate, and then a potential for 5 million shares later? It always seemed odd.
Right. Yeah. It is really fucking odd. We got a guy backstage here. His name is Lurk. Let's pull in Lurk real quick and see if he has any opinions here tonight. Chat, welcome, Lurk. Lurk, what's going on, my man? Welcome to the PP Show.
Hey, PP, Travis, chat. Great to be on the show here. Been around in the community for since 23.
Right on.
I'm Lurk on X also, but I wanted to bring up something I didn't hear anybody talking about.
Sure.
And that was in regard to Pulte talking about, I think it was actually during one of his appearances on the chat, where he brought up the fact that he believed that GME would go to $17.
Yes.
At the time, Q reference, way into Q at the time as well.
Yeah.
And just kind of thought about it. Well, today, actually, he had a tweet as well, who said, I think he had price points in there. One of them was $17 would be a gift from God.
He did say that. Yes.
I know that it dropped into the 17s today for the first time ever since he said that. And I've been thinking about that ever since he said it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time it's happened.
And, it's interesting too, because GameStop's kind of finding this $18 range here. I've been tracking Chewy as well. And I saw Chewy had like some fantastic earnings recently, last quarter. And ever since those earnings came out, the stock absolutely plummeted. I mean, from like $28 down to a bottom of 17, it bounced right off of 17. And it's recovered now about like $23 a share, $24 a share. But I do find it very odd, the $17 price range. Could we see GameStop go to 17? I mean, it's highly possible, right? And Pulte did drop a lot of Q reference, right? Like this is someone who was posting like Colty with the Q and all sorts of other things. So, jump to today, at the time, like, yes, some people were talking about Q, but a lot of them were kind of like brushed off and, kind of moved on from. But jump to today, a lot of these guys were early. A lot of these guys were right. Bill Pulte obviously being one of them. I mean, for God's sakes, he was the national director of intelligence at one point as well, right? So, yeah, I mean, I do find it interesting that he did kind of point that out, and we're seeing that today. I mean, is there anything else you want to add in terms of that?
No, I just wanted to bring that up. I thought I've kind of been watching for that ever since he talked about it dropping to 17. But obviously he's connected, being part of the cabinet and everything with Q. I think it's undeniable. But just wanted to pop in and say that. Love you guys. Love the show. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Appreciate the support, my man. Chat, let's get some love for Lurk, who it is out there, and appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing that with us.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah, the guy's not wrong. 17 is a real possibility. I don't know. It seems like we're fighting at 18 right now. Look, temporary pain for long-term pleasure is okay with me. If we go down to 17, we bottom out there, and then we do a full reversal, I have no issues there. I don't play options anymore. I really should, to be honest with you, but I've lost too much money on options. I just buy the stock now. Average down, just stock, because so many times I've played these derivatives, and every single time, sometimes I get lucky, Chewy, I've made a couple wins there, a couple with GameStop as well, but it's very, very hard to time it, especially with all the fraud that's going on in the markets and what they do with GameStop. I mean, obviously it's the most bullish news we've ever seen. GameStop has obviously Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They've taken a 9.8 position in eBay. They want to outright buy eBay for $50 billion. They have tons of cash on hand, and yet the stock price is just going down, and they're profitable. I mean, they're making so much fucking money. It's unreal. So that is why I'm not really playing the options right now, right? They're a gamble. But when it comes to shares, absolutely, it's a deep value play. It's undervalued as fuck. And again, I'm not a professional out there. That is how I choose to spend my personal money, and it is buying more GameStop stock in the meantime. I'm bullish on Cohen. I believe in the company, and the board I think is succeeding. And I do think at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to, or most certainly involved in whatever's going on with this DK Butterfly acquisition of this shell of company, right? We can all agree that if GameStop is, and again, Goatbeards was on the show last week, if GameStop is having consecutive profitable earnings, it only makes sense that they need to acquire a shell where they're basically going to offset some of those profits as well. So I will say it is very interesting. Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Travis?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was just looking at some of the charts and looking at some of my indicators that I typically do. And yeah, GameStop is just, ever since the announcement, because everything's going to be calculated on the VWAP, price has been dropping, which is to be absolutely expected with as much market manipulation as we've seen, and using options, deep out of the money puts and everything to control the price action so that they can get it as low as possible, just so the conversion is higher. I mean, and very typical. I mean, if we do see $17 a share, I mean, right now it's at what, 1803?
Yeah, 18 something.
Closed 18, yeah. If we see $17 a share, you're trading at 150% plus of book value with a company that just had a historic quarter. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that is truly sustainable, or if institutional buyers will come in and say, no, we're going to gobble that up because that's a steal.
Well, institutional holdings are going up, right? The data is showing that institutional buying is elevated right now.
I think if they almost have to be, because price lowers, so therefore you have to buy more GameStop to be in your ETFs and everything else. That's not atypical, and with the price dropping anymore, we'll see more institutional buys over the next quarter if the price stays this low for this long. So I would actually expect that over the next quarter, but I'm talking like true institutional buyers, not just for ETFs, but for investment purposes, because it's trading at 150% of book value and just had a record quarter.
Yeah. And again, I think just the profits in their quarters are just going to get even better as time goes on, right? There's a lot of people spending money on these power packs. I mean, they just announced recently, there is like these rewards if you spend like $2 million on power packs and shit. I mean, it's fucking crazy, man. Power pack stuff. I mean, obviously there's a lot of incentive right now, and the company is making a shitload of money. So it is very interesting. While the stock price is crashing, right, you have the yen carry trade that's coming back into light as well. Crash in Japan, you have 18.8 trillion, 120 billion wiped from the Japanese stocks as well this week too, which I thought was very interesting as well. So a little bit of the yen carry trade going on. We just got like 2 more posts and we're out for the night. This was another post that drew my attention from Ryan Dunner. It says, I'm going to give you the dates. You decide what to make of them. September 29th of 2023, DK Butterfly, the Bed Bath & Beyond estate, files its planned effective date. This triggers the Section 382 I-5, or L5, I think is what you said. Oh, yeah. L5, 2-year restriction. During these 2 years, any second ownership change destroys the preserved nulls. The estate is legally frozen. September 29th of 2025, the 2-year restriction expires. October 7th of 2025, 8 days later, GameStop distributes warrants to shareholders, 1 warrant for every 10 shares, 59.1 million warrants, 32 exercise price for October 30th of 2026, expiry cash only. On the same day, the same exact day, Beyond Inc., also operating under Bed Bath & Beyond, distributes a warrant dividend to its own shareholders as well. Bed Bath W, 1 warrant for every 10 shares, 15.50, exercise price October 7th of 2026, expiry cash only. Okay. It goes on to say the same distribution date, same 1-to-10 ratio, same cash exercise, only structure, staggered expires Bed Bath W on October 7th, GME W's on October 30th as well. I also fed AI a bunch of this stuff too. The AI is convinced that this is most certainly not a coincidence. This is not something typical that you see unless there is some kind of partnership behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I mean, they are literally, there's no way that you can convince me it's not a coincidence when they file the warrant dates on the exact same day. The QSIP filed for Bed Bath W. Here's the QSIP number. That is the current legacy Bed Bath issuer code, not Beyond Inc.'s current code, the old code. Before September 29th, you could not safely distribute warrants in connection with DK Butterfly. Warrant trading creates ownership changes. Ownership changes trigger a second Section 382 event. A second Section 382 event zeroes out the nulls. Distribution happened the first business week after the freeze ended, both on the same day. Beyond is currently opening a physical Bed Bath Beyond stores through the Brand House Collective. Physical stores are COBE, continuity of business enterprise. The Section 382 requirement to preserve nulls after bankruptcy exit. It also goes on to say Beyond is currently opening physical Bed Bath Beyond stores through Brand House Collective. Physical stores are continuity.
You read that paragraph.
Maybe he rewrote it again. I'll say it the way it is. I don't know if Cohen has designed this with an 8-day precision. What I do know is that the instrument exists. The legal structure maps to null preservation. The timing is precise. 2 instruments with identical structures distributed on the same day with a staggering expiries is not something that happens by accident. Staggering expiries, same onset, Bed Bath W, pressure resolves on October 7th, 2026. GMEW's pressure resolves on October 30th, cascading sequential. MOAS was never a squeeze. This is the structure. And I think that's it. So again, a very interesting post as well. Since we're going to start closing up here in a moment. This was a post from Sneed out there. I thought this was very interesting as well. Quite literally exactly what we're seeing today in terms of the stock price of GameStop. Here's Roaring Kitty when he was live. And it says here at the bottom, if it ends up being this stupidly simple, I will laugh. I mean, you literally can't make this shit up, right? There's a strong possibility maybe we're going to see Roaring Kitty return as well. But it is making the exact same move that we saw way back in 2024 when he did come back. We haven't seen backstage RC in God knows how long as well. We have a $500 signal from Greg. If Bitcoin breaks 68,500 and keeps going, I mean, what an odd number to say. If Bitcoin breaks through 68,500 and keeps going up, it could be heading towards 69,000 next. Some people pointed out that it's class 6 and also class 9. And also there is a $500 difference between the two numbers that he put here as well. And this is not the first time that he's hinted at 500. I think he showed it on his scale at 1.2, $500 price tag.
Greg is kitty.
Very strong likelihood. Last post of the night. This was from Bob Dole. This was an interesting one as well. It says here, so Bed Bath & Beyond issued warrants on October 7th, the same as GameStop, and 311 days later, they voluntarily delist from the NYSE and have their highest volume to date. If you take this photo from Roaring Kitty and you subtract the 420 from 109, you get 311. And I think even Alpha State had pointed something out with the 311 post as well. With the time post, I'm forgetting what he had pointed out, but there was also some correlation to 311. But honestly, no, I don't think this was the same thing. But it says here 311 days from that issuance date of October 7th, you get them voluntarily delisting from the NYSE. I mean, a lot of tinfoil, a lot of connections, but I do believe something is happening relatively soon here. Travis, as we start to wrap up, let me close this page here. Let me just close this one out. What would you like to tell the good people at home tuning in tonight? We have a couple thousand people tuning in across all of our platforms here tonight. What would you like them to know, Travis, as we start to wrap up the show here this evening? All things that we've kind of discussed. And it's always a pleasure to see you here at the PP Show. Let's hear it tonight.
Oh, man, it's always good to be here. You want me to wrap up the entire show in a few thoughts in under a couple minutes? That's going to be tough. Vlad didn't flip. Citadel and Ken are still shady. I find it funny that they're also in the Epstein files. But
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need Michael here. Where's Michael at?
It's fun to say. But it ended up being true. Like everything's kind of connected. Great post by all. What was the name of
Goatbeards or
Goatbeards Calculus?
Yes,
Calculus of None. Amazing posts. Alpha State, great video. Good to see you. Sorry, I was scarfing down dinner at the time when you came on. Always good to see Wally lurk with some interesting thoughts as well. So good to have some people just jumping on, contributing. Knowledge is power. I mean, we have probably forgotten more than we remember. I know that's the case for me, but I don't forget all the things that happen and everything that we've learned throughout the years on how our markets actually work. The fact that we may be heading to tokenization is a great thing, but only if it's completely decentralized. As long as they're centralized exchanges, there is going to be off blockchain transactions that are occurring that will not affect the price. And until we get true price discovery, we will never have, a true market that is dependent or that fluctuates on true supply and demand. I think that's where we need to get. This is a step in the right direction with tokenization, but then learning how to trade on just decentralized exchanges rather than anything centralized will be key for anybody who wants to own tokenized shares in the future. But that's pretty much it for me. I mean, blockchain has always been the bar. I think I need to kind of restate it. Decentralized blockchain should be the bar. And that's kind of where I'm glad to see we're going there with the Clarity Act. I'm glad to see that we're almost there. It's good to see the adoption coming to fruition. We just have to know and be mindful as, household investors to stay decentralized. Sort of like IEX is for the markets today, decentralized will be the IEX for all of blockchain. And find yourself a decentralized exchange when things come to fruition and trade away. Take
exciting
your gains and go.
Yeah. I mean,
it.
Especially with the fact of them trying to pass the Clarity Act, the SEC saying, you know what, we're not waiting for this to pass. We're implementing our own thing. There is this massive, massive push to tokenize all stocks and everything, right? And the fact is that you're seeing right now crypto, a lot of people are talking about this super cycle. Yes. I've traded crypto for years. I've studied it for years. I've made a lot of money in it years ago, right? Buying Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, right? When it was like $200. So I understand kind of the mechanism of what's going on behind the scenes. So I do think that there's a super cycle happening here. It's going to be a massive, massive bull run. And people forget that crypto absolutely exploded, I believe, prior to a lot of these meme stocks, right? So this could be the signal. What we're seeing now is basically the super cycle happen, and what's going to happen with these meme stocks, right? GameStop, things like that, because obviously we know that GameStop, ran up to $500, and there was a slew of other stocks, including Overstock, that went from $4, just like it is today, upwards of $80 to $120 a share. So with that being said, Travis, it's always a pleasure, my man. Appreciate having you on the show, and hope to see you next time.
Yeah, good to see you, chat. Have a good night, PP. Great to see you as always, man. Take care.
Right on. All right, chat, let's get some love for Travis on his way out. Take care, Travis. We'll see you next time. There you have it, man. The PP Show. We got together, we talked some DD. Hell, even the fellas showed up to lend their opinion. There's some excellent DD out there. Again, some of this DD, if I kind of skipped over these links, things like that. Again, there's a lot to cover here tonight, but I highly advise you guys to go back, sift through some of that DD, click those links, read through it yourself, and you'll see the connections as well. I think that what we're about to see here is about to be the biggest bull run of the century for the longest time. And again, was I the only one out there who fucking missed out on Moderna fucking calls, man? Some people out there, $100, okay? If you put $100 into these fucking weeklies, you would have made $900K this week. I mean, you literally can't make this shit up. It's always, and obviously retail was not buying this shit. Maybe you have one or two people out there who happen to get lucky. I heard if you put $1,000 into these calls, you would have made $9 million, man. I mean, literally, I cannot believe it, man. What the fuck is going on here? And it's always these random stocks that tend to just explode out of nowhere. Some people are saying, oh, it's the news based off of a cancer vaccine, things like that. Yeah, sure. What you're seeing is a lot of it is like insider trading, and a lot of it, what you're seeing as well is these institutions just kind of like pumping it as well. Fauci obviously there's all this stuff about him going to jail. Maybe he needs the liquidity, God knows, right? But wow, I mean, how could none of us see it? $100, man, even 600K would have been fucking fantastic. Man, that's a lot of GameStop, man, to buy. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of the night, man. Love you all. Appreciate your guys' support. If you watch or donate, whatever it may be, appreciate you guys tuning to the show and showing your support here tonight. Enjoy the rest of the night. We'll leave you guys off with a dildo slap on the way out, and hope to see you guys next week. Enjoy the rest of the night. Big shout out to all the DD writers out there. Appreciate you guys' work and everything you do. So with that being said, enjoy the dildo slap, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace.